Yeah, and this is
Great.
where the surveys and doing the analysis of where we stand right now is very essential, because instead of reinventing the wheel and doing something that already exists, we should just run the analysis of what infrastructure do we have already, and how is it tailored to our environment, which is the UAE, and what is it, where are the gaps when we compare the global scorecard as opposed to the UAE. That's why with the surveys, like for example, doing perception of disasters right now with public opinion, what is it with university students, with all that, the top 3 disasters that they see, how well are, you know, is everyone dealing with those, and then bridging what the private sector, serving the private sector's initiatives on that and bridging the gaps. Then we can come back and say, this is the analysis, this is what we see, that is the gap, this is what's missing, and then we can create initiatives based on that as well. So we would appreciate looking at the current scorecard and then comparing and seeing what is missing, what is not, and how can we tailor it to our current environment based on everyone's conversation. So that this is very helpful.
Yeah, but the scorecard is still the scorecard. I mean, what you are talking about, it's a survey, not exactly the scorecard. The scorecard will assess the current buildings in UAE and under Iltizam assets. What is this buildings maturity in regards to financial, in regards to management, in regards to facing the crisis, in regards to disaster risk reduction. So I think this both activities, not one activity. I mean, okay, survey is very good, and we can doing this survey, but if we are looking for a building's resilience, so there are in place, there are a scorecard, and I think we can start with it.
Yeah, so Ahmed, the point is well noted. Yes, you're right. What we're saying is that with the portfolio under us, we can take a population that we can form and have an understanding after we run the assessment on these scorecards to understand what do we have in the UAE and the building resilience.
Exactly.
Can we get Atif into this discussion? Because initially we were thinking of, and this is with the board approval, if we do a committee that works on resilient infrastructure, and based on the survey result from Iltizam, and based on what Ahmed and Arise Global is doing on building resilience, we come up with our own strategy that's in alignment with the international coalition. And then we see how we can work with them. But Atif, do you want to say something on, I think Sujit invited you to speak up on this. What do you think?
Sorry, Atif, we can't hear you.
I think he's muted, right? No.
Sorry, Atif, we can't hear you.
No, not yet.
I believe the device he has for as a speaker is not working. It's not
Am I audible now?
Yes, now it's working.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. And Sujit, thank you so much for the detailed insight. It was really, really enriching. You touched matters, which is one of my points today as well, the infrastructure. And to be honest, I would call it the insufficient infrastructure, which happens to be the area of gap or the area of opportunity as we would want to look at it. Going back to, Dr. Mahmood, what we had discussed, that we create a focus point so that we can eventually conclude on the focus points and present it for a fruitful and effective public-private partnership, So with that intention, I had gone through a few aspects of opportunities, few areas of opportunities, and I find that two of them are really critical and immediately required. It's a necessity of it's not about the real estate industry. What I want to express is that real estate is one aspect that impacts everyone's life. It impacts everyone's life. And that is why it is not just linked to the real estate vertical, it is comprehensive for the city and the country that we look into these two critical activities, because they impact human life. They impact everyone's life who's living in these cities. So I made 2 points. Third one is something that I'm still doing my research upon, but I would want it to be included as well. I would request it to be included in our charter. The first, of course, what I had discussed in the last meeting, in the inaugural meeting, that we look at fire accidents as a critical disaster for this part of the world, and we create a proper action plan for not just creating a fire code for the buildings that will be constructed in the future, but also look at the existing city, highlight the areas in terms of traffic congestion. In case there is a fire event, then what is the kind of traffic congestion during the, like we do traffic impact study when we are doing any building, we should do fire impact study for these buildings, where we clearly understand that every area, every building is different. Like, for example, if there was, God forbid, there was a fire in a more spread out area versus a congested area, it has to be treated differently. And within the congested area or the spread out area, each building has to be treated differently because they carry different form of risk. One could have been built in 1990 with a different fire code and standards, while another could have been built in 2000 in the last decade or so, might be more prone to fire accidents and risk associated with fire accidents because they carry a cladding material versus a plaster pane. So we need to chart out a action plan for that. Second, what Mr. Sujit also mentioned, the infrastructure. I think we really need to look at how the master planning is done. And my proposal is that we take to government a central planning commission. Dr. Mahmood, we have discussed this matter earlier as well. We have had a couple of discussions on this matter in the past. And we need to have a central planning commission like a city or a planning committee, which ultimately controls the master developers, not just the developers, but also the master developers. Because let's say, for example, if I take two communities in UAE, one could be a complete bottleneck situation. In case of disaster, the exiting of the community itself might be a risk in itself. The kind of infrastructure that has been laid out, may not be sufficient for catering to the needs of that master community and the residents of that, occupants of the master community, whether it is commercial or residential. So the second point I want to request everyone to add in the focus point is the master planning along with the planning commission, which I think is going to enhance the overall master community development over here, which also becomes a central body for framing the bylaws and the building codes, implementing and enforcing the building codes, not just on the developers, but also on the master developers. And the third point, which I still feel is an area of opportunity, is use of plastic, because UAE continues to be on the higher bracket of consuming plastic, which is the global standards is 28 kilos per capita, while UAE stands at 30 kilos, which is still an area of opportunity. And like we always envisage to be better than the rest of the world in UAE, I think this is something we should beat the global standards and create our own benchmark by reducing the use of plastic. So these are 3 points, because again, plastic is also a huge, it has a huge impact on the nature. Whether we are using the biodegradable plastic or not, the code needs to be set for the usage of plastic and what kind of plastic is being permitted to be used in the country. So my 3 points for the focus point, as I said, fire accidents to be classed as a major disaster. We create a proper, if everyone agrees, I can put the action point and I can present it to everyone within a week in terms of what needs to be included over there. The planning commission for the master developments, master communities, and third, a charter for reducing the use of plastic and controlling the use of plastic, if I can say so.
Thank you, Atif. Sajid, you want to respond?
Yes, just a very quick response. I think, other board members actually should speak. I think it's really a very good idea. I would suggest as a way forward, I'm very happy to work with, this is a subject actually very close to my heart. That's why I think I would like to work with Eltizam and Atif, from Danube, on framing this, because there are also other aspects such as how do we create an initiative that actually also talks to the regulators? Because the idea is that let's not try to do everything, on our own, because we won't go far in that way. If we can, as the UAE Arise can influence the regulators also to bring in certain, dimensions of these in their regulations, in their enforcement, that will be our success. I think if we can bring these elements into, if you work together with the regulators, and if that becomes something that is enforced by law or by some sort of regulation, that will be, I think, perhaps our success. So let's take it forward, separately to develop it as an initiative, and what exactly we can do, where we want to go. And I would be very happy to touch base separately with you guys, and then bring it back to the board in the next meeting.
Just one cent from my side. In that, like what we've agreed from beginning, that it requires an efficient and functional public-private partnership. And I think Dr. Mahmood and also Dr. Tariq are two very key individuals who can help us bringing in these key decision makers from the regulators on the board on the charter, and have a presentation to look at what we are proposing. And I think that if parallel we can start working on that, because while we are creating the action points and the proposal, parallel if we are able to bring on board, like say for example Dubai Civil Defense, and also from the Planning Commission, it remains a sensitive matter. I don't know who it can go to. So Dr. Mahmood will be probably the perfect man to answer that. It's a sensitive matter, so don't know where it can land up to. But I don't know, maybe Ministry of Housing, if that is possible. So we can parallel start working on bringing on board these two key government agencies on board.
One point, ladies and gentlemen, I want to raise in here is that I think it will be good for us to see how we integrate Arise with the disaster committees in Dubai and the federal level in the UAE. These are two officially recognized authorities and bodies available. So we need to see how we integrate with them and be aligned with their goals as well.
Yeah, that's really a very good point. Sorry, I'm taking the floor again. I think it's really an important point, and this is already there in our mind. We work with NISIMA in UAE, the National Crisis and Emergency Management Agency, as well as in Dubai. Dubai right now, I think Dubai Police and the Executive Council takes a lead on city resilience and risk reduction, and they have been working very closely with us. Dubai has a resilient Dubai strategy from disaster risk reduction perspective. They will be launching it, I think, on the 28th. This is a very well developed, not just a document, I must say, it's a very well developed strategy with inclusion of many departments in Dubai. They have really done a tremendous job. In fact, we are now thinking of putting Dubai as a role model city for other countries and cities to learn, and that work is going on. And I think it is definitely it is key to have those linkages. We will bring that element in. We'll bring them together once we have some very concrete actions, initiatives proposed and agreed by the board. I think we should bring them in, NISIMA, the Dubai Police, the Dubai Executive Council, so that they are also fully aware of how private sector is contributing. I think that's a very good suggestion. Just to go back on this point of resilient infrastructure, I think the building scorecard is also a very good starting point, as Ahmed mentioned. This is already there. This has already been tested with many other Arise network members. So let's look at it. We can share with you, Ahmed can share it with you. Let's look at it while we are formulating this initiative. So let's this be a specific initiative on resilient infrastructure, or and we bring in also the government linkage dimension. So that's, I think, a good start. Just a very quick intervention on the business resilience survey. To my understanding, the survey is much broader than just looking at infrastructure issues, right? I think it should really look at a sort of a scanning of the business environment and how resilience or risk reduction is being tackled currently, so that will allow us to, allow all board members to actually start looking at where to start and how to move forward. That is a very key, I think, element, the survey, the business resilience survey, which should go beyond, to my understanding, from not only look at infrastructure, but other aspects, the resilience in the service industry and in all of that. So that is a critical element, and I think that will inform everyone, in fact, to how to move forward. So that should be another, consideration.
Mr. Sujit and Chairman, board members, if I may, I think something that can be also taken into account is not only the physical infrastructure, but the technological infrastructure. We are very fortunate to live in a country, in a city that is very technology forward with, Smart Dubai initiatives and, trying to go paperless and everything. And I think having the technology infrastructure to be able to do our meeting virtually and to continue to thrive in the midst of COVID is incredibly important. And also it's going to be a way forward too. And I think a focal point of the government and its initiatives here in Dubai and the UAE.
Yeah, that's really another very important point. I think the way the world is moving now, it's all about, the digital transformation is also creating a digital risk, that businesses are these days affected more of not because of falling infrastructure, but of actually falling, their digital infrastructure due to cyber attacks or any sort of, this issues that is actually, sort of disrupting the whole service provision. So this could be, definitely a dimension need to be taken care of.
Mr. Sujit and Chairman, if I can suggest, from the volume of businesses and touch points, that if we put Mr. James Mathew, our good friend, as someone who can take the lead on business resilience, especially not looking at the businesses which have been successful, we're also looking at businesses which have not been successful and failed in the region. If we are able to create a charter on business resilience, he's able to scan and he's scanned many businesses. I think that can give us a very quick insight into the points that can be covered under business resilience: financial, logistical, regulatory, and of course the other matters relating to the infrastructure.
Yeah, if you can't hear me as well, the business itself. So I like you all to look at the ecosystem. So I started to contact to what this resilience to them.
Zeina, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me better now? Is it better?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so after last meeting, I was really motivated, like you all, and I started looking at the ecosystem here and contacting a few of the SMEs to see what does business resilience mean to them and what are the challenges they're facing, how we can partnership and actually improve that. So one thing that always came up was the clarity of regulations. So to have clear regulations, basically that they can understand in different situations. Of course, other things that came up was access to capital, but two things which I found very interesting in the light of the COVID disaster 2 points they all faced, and we've discussed them. One of them was basically the labor regulations, like in face of disasters, actually having opportunities to work out part-time contracts. And few initiatives are taking place on that, allowing part-time contracts. And the second one, which I really found interesting, was the end of service. So as many employees lost their jobs, 87% of the companies were not able to pay end of service, which affects the employees' resilience as well as the economy and the ecosystem. And there are things which could be done. One thing which they found in common, that there was, yes, by theory, companies should have or do put aside end of service, but by mandate, there's no mandate actually to enforce companies to do that. So regulations around that was very interesting that they mentioned it. It was also interesting to see what resilience means to them. It's basically being as a company sustainable in an ecosystem to face disasters. And the recent experience, of course, was the COVID one. So those two were very interesting points. Maybe we can form partnerships and find solutions for them. In terms of the end of service, interestingly enough, a startup is actually offering a solution on that. And basically how to better prepare companies for end of service, putting it aside so they can pay their employees at that level. And this brought me basically to the platform of startups. Startups is an important part of resilience because, right, I mean, they find solutions for problems. And if we could support them or find a platform for them as well in our Arise initiative, that would be absolutely great.
And
can I make
Zeina,
a point here?
Oh, Mr. Siddiqui, go ahead.
Yes, this is probably first time in the history of the world that one healthcare crisis has practically shut down the global economy. And as one of the components of resilience is also recovery plan. I think infrastructure is very important, but at the same time, people who have invested large amount of monies in different industries and are suffering because of this global pandemic crisis, I think as part of Arise, we may have, I think James Mathew can highlight this, we can have industry-specific recovery programs. And this could be addressed during the CEO Forum on Business Resilience. We can pick up 2-3 industries which have suffered more during this crisis. So I think maybe we can form a committee of some people who have consulting background and who could contribute to this, because the recovery program is the need of the hour for every industry, every CEO.
Yeah, sorry, Dr. Mahmoud. I think that what Dr. Siddiqui just said, I think is also really an important area, the business recovery in the wake of the pandemic. If some colleagues are interested really to work on it, that will be really also wonderful, you know, another element to the UAE.
I think we can form a committee with Mr. James Mathew, and I would volunteer for this, and maybe some other colleagues could do it, and we could pick up some specific industries and come up with some helpful strategies for them.
If I may I also add Helen to this and Zeina, since they've been working with SMEs?
Definitely. I mean, recovery is as important, and I mean, it builds the resilience. And what is that lots of SMEs basically are in business, but when the disaster hits, how well prepared are they? Of course, there are elements to that. As said, I mean, access to capital, labor contracts, you know, all of this adds to how well prepared are they? Are they sustainable to continue or not? It's very recommended for startups because right now, although we have a culture, startups here in don't have as well clear KPIs for the entrepreneurial economy. I mean, do we want them to survive after 5 years? Do we have data of how many have survived after 5 years? How much GDP should form? Are we empowering them to actually survive? And Mr. Atif mentioned a very important point, celebrating failure. How much are we celebrating in the startup ecosystem to encourage actually success? So to me, preparedness as well as the startup spirit, clarity, KPIs really fall hand in hand.
Zeina, I couldn't agree more, especially as a startup ourselves. You know, I think Dubai is becoming a real hub for technology and entrepreneurship. By example of our company, you know, our team moved from Silicon Valley, which is the heart of startups, to Dubai to start it here. And I think that's demonstrative of the attractiveness of building a company here in Dubai and across the UAE and using it as a hub, because it is a logistics, you know, talent and financial hub for everything. So, I definitely welcome this opportunity to work on this.
Great. There was someone who wanted to talk. I haven't seen who's that, but please feel free.
Yeah.
I think James.
Somebody else? Yeah, can I?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. And extremely happy to see a very incredibly impressive background of Dr. Tariq, which is, you know, I can see UNDR arise. Thank you once again to see you, everybody. I've heard everybody, and my understanding of the whole thing is, so we talk about the Sendai framework, we talk about understanding the disaster risk. So my first point of yeah, anything? Can I go ahead? Yeah.
Yes.
So my understanding is analyzing risk. So risk is something but identifying and analyzing the event that impacts individual, all of us. So in order to do the reduction and in the risk of disasters, we need to identify the disasters here. Now, Atif, good friend, has already talked about, you know, the fire, which is one. You look around, you know, I just read that, you know, around 1.5 billion people have been affected in the last 10 years and talking about $1.3 trillion. Okay, this is the amount which has been affected. But the risk varies from country to country. You know, the risk what is happening in Africa may not be the risk what we have here. So we need to start from there, identify what exactly the risk, what is there. And from there, we move to the enhancing the disaster preparedness. So this should be a step what we should be looking at. That's number one. Number two, on the partnering with the SMEs and the private public initiative. All of us are sitting with lots of our, you know, connectivity with a large number of SMEs, large number of companies who can definitely propagate this aspect and move forward. So we can actually, we need to enhance our, you know, see, our first board meeting was done. People knew about, people read about it. So we need to move to the next stage. When we talk about the fire, for example, you know, I do not know whether we should be able to reinvent the whole thing, because we need to actually move towards, say, for example, the firefighting, or maybe the fire and safety department, or maybe some other department, which we can actually collaborate with them, and with our wisdom, we can go in and do, this is exactly some things which we can do for them. So likewise, each of this risk we can bring in some private partnership into it. We can bring in some key partners who can definitely work along with us. And then I was wanting to talk about, the SME partnership. This is, and then coming to the resilience, you know, resilience survey. Yes, of course, we are going through a tough time. Everybody has got, you know, I talked about, I mean, I heard Lena saying, I forgot her name, I suppose, Zeina, yes, talking about the employment or the employers, the issues faced by employees. So these are some things which needs a lot of attention to it. But then my priority would be to identify on the disaster side, what would be something which we could do on it. Cybersecurity is an area on the data part of it, or the DIFC, which is always a first mover in both, in the financial sector here, because financial services is the third largest economy on the Dubai side. So they are going ahead in terms of the data privacy. There are cybersecurity, regulations which has come in, but which has not been implemented in the mainland, which will, I'm sure it is follow through. So these are the couple of thoughts which has come in, and I'm happy to take up this position in case, if this is the direction in which we need to move. Thank you so much. I think we so many people to talk, so I will just restrict my time. Thank you.
I think Dr. Ghassan, right?
Yes, I would like to add to James and Atif's talk regarding the fire safety, and propose like a fire safety engineering reassessment in working with the civil defense. And we can also review these current standard codes and see what, as James said, what applies in Africa doesn't apply. There's an ambient temperature difference, there's a social, the buildings are different, the life habits are different. So it has to be really formulated to fit the UAE risks, which can be done with the civil defense, reviewing the current fire codes and how can we upgrade them. And I think now we can do that, again, with CED and Trakhis as well, and reviewing the building codes in general. And we can make use also of the universities here, American University of Sharjah, American University of Dubai, where we can engage students, graduates or undergraduates who are, and take them in. You have to do something that's also economical, and that's what happens in the US. You have RAs, and so you can really employ, and at the same time they're gaining experience, but you can get some data that we need and require, where the educational sector and the interlink between industry and education comes together, and bridge that as well. Another thing I would like to propose to the projects is like clean air initiatives. Today, I know we are in the UNDRR, but there is also something parallel in the United Nations, in the UNFCCC, which is a road from Kyoto to Paris. The pandemic is the majority, it's a respiratory problem. So we have to look at the clean air initiatives, and how do we, even on the economical level, because Paris will, to keep the business more resilient, Paris will somehow, depending on each country's roadmap, it might in some countries impose taxes also for carbon. So businesses that are carbon positive, how do you keep them resilient economically? And so you have to look at, we as Steelwood are a part of the International Emission Trading Association, which we can legislate with them for the MENA region and for the UAE, what suits. Again, it should be a framework that will not damage the industry or the economy, especially we are all manufacturing countries, the GCC in general. So I think clean air initiatives, trade systems for carbon, and yesterday I was reading, I think the UAE per capita has the highest carbon emission per capita, which is one of the 4 or 5 per capita. So these things can be reviewed. I would also want to engage maybe with the Ministry of Energy and Industry, air quality and climate risk, change risks, because that climate change is also something we need to mitigate here in the UAE as well.
Well, it's great to see all this excitement, and I think we're adding more to the action plan, which is, I think it's good, as long as we know our priorities, and maybe we'll start with some quick wins, but also some strategic projects. Definitely there is a need for public-private partnership, and maybe if we kind of map all the stakeholders from government and private sector that we need them to be part of our projects, so we can get in touch with them and get their buy. I'm looking at all the projects that we're supposed to discuss today. Yes, sure.
Yes.
Is there any?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
In some of what I mentioned, we already have a nice connection with the observer of the UNFCCC, any clean air initiatives. And I think from when we look at the VOCs and buildings, let's say low emission products, that affect the DHA, for example, the health authorities. And again, COVID is an air issue, it's an environmental issue. So that's a major thing that we should also engage into as a community and as a region.
Sure. Can I go back to Ahmed?
Ahmed,
Doctor. Yes.
Yeah.
We've talked
please,
about training, capacity building, SMEs, right? This is part of, I think, what you're going to hit. So can you tell us more about this and how can we be part of it?
Could you please share the presentation, Dr. Mahmoud, as long as from my side I cannot share?
I'm using my mobile, so
the same here.
But I have the presentation in front of me, so maybe let me try to. Okay, I think now you can see it, right? Okay. Yes. Can you see it?
Not this. Can I see? Yeah, I see this one, but I mean the presentation itself I sent before.
Yeah, the one you sent now. No.
Yeah, maybe Ahmad, I think we had a long discussion on the SME program, which we worked a lot on the content. There is a website available for SMEs, continuity, tools available for SMEs. That is something I think low-hanging fruit, which we can immediately sort of launch. So you can perhaps talk about that.
Yeah. Okay. Quickly, we will share the presentation later on with all board, but definitely we are talking here about a program, a special program for SME. As long as we need to back again, so there are arise key focus areas, right? The 4 focus areas. The first one is related to SMEs. So we would like to propose to the community of UAE SMEs program that is including guideline, including materials, including training to help the SMEs to dealing with the consequences of COVID-19. So I discussed with Dr. Mahmoud and also with Dr. Tariq about how we can do something like this in partnership with DED, with Mohammed bin Rashid for small medium enterprise projects. I think we can targeting for first phase. We can targeting 20 companies. These 20 companies, we can provide them with the assessment, assess the current situation for them. Second, we can provide them a workshop for 2 days. This workshop for 2 days will including the fundamentals of business continuity, fundamentals of business resilience. What is the meaning of supply chain resilience? What is the meaning of cyber resilience? What is how to manage your asset? How to build underwriting business continuity plan, and by end of this workshop, we will provide them with the basic tools to construct a business continuity program for their SMEs. And after that, we can provide them something like 45 minutes or 30 minutes as a consultation to solve any problem related to the business continuity or business resilience for these SMEs. I think we can start with 20 companies. After that, we can provide for more and more and more. But we need, as Dr. Mahmoud said and as Sujit said, we need to have a quick wins. So if we're doing something like this, I think it will provide a value for the community, and maybe after that we can working with more and more companies as well. So this is the 4 SMEs.
Mm-hmm. So Ahmed, I think we talked also about some awareness session, and you already know we communicated via WhatsApp that I had a good call with DED, Dubai Economic Department, and we talked about partnership with Economic Department, and those guys are really excited to work with us. So I think this program with businesses, we can do it with DED.
Perfect.
So this is a quick one. This is a low hanging, as Sujit said. And maybe if you send us as a board more information, the same you send me, I can share it with them and see if everyone is in alignment.
Definitely.
And the contribution.
Definitely. Okay. So the second subject is related to the awareness and the training. Okay. We already talking about we can provide, firstly we can provide something like awareness for 40 or 50 companies, including many industrial, maybe government, maybe financial, whatever, about what is the business continuity, what is the INSEMA standard as well, what is the meaning of business continuity life cycle. It will be something like a small awareness for 2 hours or something, 2 hours for regular attendees, and 45 minutes or one hour for top management. This is the first suggested program. Second, the program is related to workshop to how to implement a business continuity, and it will be 3 days or 4 days, held by the real simulation for implementing business continuity and in any industries as well. So it will be 3 days. First day, it will be introduction about business continuity, business resilience. What is the meaning of Sendai framework? What is the priority of Sendai framework? What is the linkage between Sendai framework and the business continuity and the business resilience as well? How to implement a business continuity, how to conduct a risk assessment, how to conduct a business impact analysis, how to writing a business continuity plans, and how to maintain your business continuity program, and finalizing with simulation, game simulation for implementing business continuity. So this is related to workshops that were related to training as well.
Okay. Is there any suggestions?
I wanted to, sorry, Mr. Sujit, you had a point. I wanted to discuss something about the SME and wanted to put my point forward. You know, first of all, when we talk about SME, I think it's important to talk about micro, small, and medium rather than just talking about small, medium, and enterprise. You know, we are really forgetting the importance of the micro enterprises, which are the nervous system of our society. And it's very important that we include the micro, small, and medium enterprises into this initiative. And second, what I wanted to highlight, Mr. Ahmad and Mr. Sujit, is that, you know, when we talk about these great initiatives we talk about and the workshops that we're proposing, in my opinion, especially the micro sector would not have the interest, intent, and appetite in the current situation to go through a workshop. Instead, if we pick up 10, 20, 25, or maybe 50 such enterprises, and we create a support platform, because see, when we look at the support platform right now that is required, yes, we are talking about having a best practice implemented for future. We are talking about say certain initiatives being implemented. That is all for the future. But right now, the challenge they are facing is survival. And if we are able to create a platform where we bring on board such enterprises, we create an example, a successful example of consultancy for such businesses, the best practices will be more welcome than just being a workshop where we have analyzed.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. The platform is already there. We have already a platform for this.
Sorry.
But by Arabic. Yeah, by Arabic. Yeah. The total platform by Arabic. Yeah, for these activities.
Yeah. So, Ms. Ahmad, my point was that we need to create the support platform for ensuring that it is implemented as a social success. that yes, these 25 micro SMEs which were struggling, UNDRR took them on board, and we did the consultancy for bringing them back to life before implementing the best practices and the initiatives for the future continuity. And when you look at the current situation, they would be struggling with financial support and a logistical support. They will be largely driven by subsidies, exemptions, and financial system which can come and bail them out in the current situation. As I said, in my opinion, they are struggling about survival rather than implementing best practices. And before it's like if I'm ailing as a patient, and when I go to the hospital, the doctor would first attend my pain and then talk about my recovery. So that is the approach I think we need to take, where we can show them as a case study taken by UNDRR in creating a true social business success example for the rest to follow.
Yes. But if I may, are we in a position to solve actually problems? Because if we are in a position to try to solve problems and support them in that way in their survival, then we can tackle few problems which are facing SMEs as well as startups.
I think that is what our intention is, to, through our network, bring that platform to such people.
Okay, if I may interject here, I think it's just a very good discussion, and it's I think what Ahmad also was talking, and since I'm familiar with what he's doing, a lot has been done in terms of the tools, the website, content being available. I think the next step is definitely to have that platform, which is sort of a network of MSMEs. And I think we should actually start calling it as MSMEs than just saying SMEs, so that we are not sounding as excluding the micro enterprises. And that's really a very vital point. So maybe Ahmad, since you will be taking, sort of a leading role in the SMEs, maybe let's call it MSMEs, which includes both, small and micro enterprises. And let's launch this, this website and the tools you have already developed, and then go into the next step, which would be to have this platform, which is a sort of a closed network of enterprises, micro and small enterprises, that will allow actually to do both advocacy sort of activities, as well as they will benefit from this SME business continuity activity. Having said that, I think in the interest of time, perhaps I think probably in maybe 15-20 minutes you will have to probably go. Can we let's go on to like pragmatically what we can do, because I'm hearing really brilliant ideas and which are all can be actioned, but let's take a sort of a gradual approach, so that we will try to capture all this discussion into the notes, so that we can expand the work plan. And we put some explanation into each work plan element, so that everybody, actually all the board members, are fully aware what do you mean by this resilient infrastructure or the SMEs, what is going to happen. Because if we don't take pragmatic sort of approach here to do things, we will lose out on all this broad discussion at the idea level. So we have to make like what we call work into action. So let's capture all this brilliant discussion. These are very valid, important ideas which everything can be pursued. Let's take a step-by-step approach, what we can do in the next 3 months, what we can do in 2021. And I think we already have a sort of feel of what can be immediately done. I think one of the aspects which would be also very key for success of UAE Arise is how effectively as UAE Arise we are doing the communication part. And there I see, a big value of Dr. Tariq Nizam's, the network is the reach out. You need also a reach out. We can't just, just discuss this in a smaller group and be happy about our, ideas and concept, but we have to reach out. We have one of the essential component within the Arise is actually propagating the business resilience, this whole idea into other businesses. And there I see a huge, value of the CEO's network, Dr. Tariq Nizami's network, and the Capital Club. Such vehicles will provide actually UAE Arise and the necessary means to reach out. And there, I think where we can, the whole idea of CEO Symposium is one of that we reach out, at least, let others know the whole concept of business resilience. And at the same time, you are actually putting yourself as UAE Arise to other businesses. So these two dimensions are really important. The website, which is in the work plan, is also something that need to be, I think, worked on. And we have some very specific activities as such. I mean, the SMEs, the infrastructure, which is, of course, need to be further developed. But let's look at in next 3 months what can be done, and in 2021 what can be done. Maybe so, Dr. Mahmoud, if you can lead the work plan discussion.
Thank you, Sujit. So as you said, we had a great new ideas as well to be added to this to make it operational. As you said, we have the matrix, we have who's doing what. So if we talk about the Arise UAE launch, this is something going to be just a small event, right, in November 9th. The website is already being done as a website. So we booked the domain. Dr. Tariq already is taking care of this as a CEO club, and we uploaded a couple of stuff on there. But we would love to actually use our website as an outreach and as a communication plan and as a communication tool. So I think we need to feed this website with also all the things that Ahmed and Sujit were talking about, the platforms, the tools, the people need to see value. I mean, we need to invite people, outreach, bring more people to the network, not to the board, but to the network to start with. I mean, talking to different people in the last 2 weeks, I see everyone has a plan, and it's great to share this plan with the board. If there's any feedback and kickstart the implementation. I mean, we have a lead for each initiative. And whoever wants to support the lead will be great. I mean, this is about teamwork at the end of the day. So I don't know, Sujit, I feel like most of these programs, we already know what we're going to do. A lot of them are quick wins. So the SME program, I know, I met with Ahmed and I know he's ready, but it's great to share the complete plan with the team. The CEO Symposium, I think we need to do some marketing, get more people to function, right? So CEO Club, Capital Club, and every one of us will be part of asking people and inviting them to this event. So we have the brochure ready. We need your approval on it, and then final confirmation from your side, and we will start inviting people. There are a few initiatives who are long-term, like the research initiative and the education and ambassador, which we need sometimes to develop. Maybe we haven't talked so much about the 31st of October and Dubai Police and what they're doing and how we work with them on this.
Yeah, this is something.
Do you want to elaborate more on this?
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Sujit. I think before we go to the 31st of October, we have the 13th of October, the commemorate of the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. The concept note and the background on this activity, which is more of an awareness activity for all the community, and the theme is related to, it's all about governance. So we, as UNDR, are working closely with the Dubai Police to do an activation on the ground, which will be mainly in the Dubai Mall and City Walk, where a big screen will showcase a video in reference to what disaster means and how it impacts the life of people, and why it is now, it's an individual as well role. As Dr. Raza was saying in the beginning of the meeting, it's individual as well responsibility. So if each one of us know how to reduce risks, then they are able to overcome the challenges. This is with Dubai Police, yet I'm sharing it with you all with key messages and would love to have you sharing it with your network. As you mentioned earlier, a few of you mentioned your network with universities, network with other corporates that are definitely able to promote for the day. The more we raise awareness and people understand there is something called disaster risk reduction, and today is the day of marking the day or commemorating the day, then as we move ahead, their attention towards the topic will be much important, and that's why we want to make sure that we are able to do so. So on that matter, I will raise all the key messages, all the marketing collaterals that I have, the digital ones with videos for your kind support to spread it, share it with all your network. That's on the 13th. On the 31st of October, which is originally the World Cities Day, but we will not do the meeting on 31st because it's a weekend. It comes on a Saturday. Therefore, we're planning to have the meeting with Dubai Police, Dubai Executive Council, and a group of government departments in Dubai to launch the strategy, the resilience strategy of Dubai #1. And as mentioned by Sujit earlier, they have submitted their application for being a role model city and hopefully announcing them being a role model city on the day. And also a representation from our headquarters will be presented. So that's a day where we want to as well extend the meeting for you to attend and participate and witness such an important event. It's a hybrid event, so limited people will be attending the on-ground meeting, and the rest of the participants will be online. So there are no real effort to be there at the event itself. Any updates on this matter, I will share it with you, Dr. Mahmoud, and then you can share it with all the board members. And we rely on your kind support, mainly for the IDDRR, to spread the awareness. I will make sure that all collaterals, videos, social media cards, key messages are there. You as a board member, you might want to say a word on that day and post it through your social media channels by saying those key messages in your own words, from your own perspective and your background as well. So that's all on the IDDRR and the launch of the Making Cities Resilient Day.
And also, Rania, we talked about the social media influencer. So if you still need more, apart from
yeah, I drafted the key messages. Yes, I drafted the key messages. I'm sharing it soon. So we can contact the influencers and arrange for the recording session, let's say, separately or collectively. Thank you, Dr. Mahmoud, and thank you all. And I hope, I mean, if anything is related to the activities that you wish to do on that day, and you have any inquiry, just feel free to call me and we can arrange something to do it together as well. Thank you so much.
If I may, can say, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I just want to mention some few things, you know, like this October 14th, the CEO Symposium, I think we will be hosting on Weber Jam, you know, so the invitation would be ready tomorrow, hopefully. And then if you approve, then we can start promoting it. But I do request every board member to, once it's finalized, that they have to promote this webinar. We need as much awareness as possible, any part of the world, actually, you know, so that will be done. On the website, one note that we have only very basic information. We will be adding the board members and different information, but I request each and every one of you that whatever information you feel is needed on our website, please forward to me, and I'll make sure that is there on our website, because I think I would say we have to do this back-end work first before we go full flash to the market, okay, Talitan? We have to have a website very up-to-date and at least basic information. At least we are doing this webinar. I think that would be a good start, you know, so people will start going to our website. So I would say if anybody have anything within a week, send us so we can do that. But most of all, also very important, we are board here, 12 people, okay? But we need to grow our network. Like discussed, you know, that everyone has to bring at least 3 members, new members for our Arise members, you know? So I think that should be expedited also. I think that's how we're gonna grow, and we're gonna get more, you know, input from our members, and maybe make, from these members, we can make committees, you know, they can be a part of the committee, but not a part of board, you know. So I think we need to grow our network also. I think that will be our ambassadors also, for getting our message across. So I think these three things I just wanted to mention at this time.
Yeah, definitely, Dr. Tariq. But as we said, quality is important. So we want to bring companies who will add value. So there is a process of membership. We talked about it, and we will maybe share it later. The issue of website, may I recommend Ahmed to be kind of a person who looks into the content, because we want to make sure that everything that is in our website is in alignment with the headquarters. It's about there's no, I mean, we're not here to market ourselves as individual people or individual companies. I think we want to make sure that all materials on our website are factual, are things that are helping the country and the economy.
Sure. Okay, Dr. Mahmoud, just a couple of notes. First, we to align with Arise key focus area, we need to invite some companies or some regulator from financial sector, as long as it's very important to align with the KPI for Arise 2020-2021. So we need to have some companies, some regulator from financial sector, as long as we need to embedding the disaster risk reduction and the climate change in financial sector, as long as this is the key success factor for us. Second,
I think Vic, I mean, Vic from Capital Club, since they have a lot of people from the IFC, I think we can discuss with them. Yes, what is the second one?
The second one is we need also to invite insurance companies to working with them for disaster risk informed, and to provide them with a guideline, to embedding disaster risk informed and disaster risk reduction in insurance industry in UAE. So so post activities is very important, as long as we need also to align with the global port and the global networks as well of Arise.
Sure. Great. So just in sake of time, we have a few more minutes. I want to go back to Sujit also to give us final thoughts, and then whoever wants to give final thoughts. Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Mahmoud. As I said, I think, I mean, we definitely have a lot of brilliant ideas, which is all really important and we need to pursue, including the financial sector, the insurance. But my suggestion here would be that let's keep the broader perspective and purview of the whole work, but let's take, like baby steps. You have to take 1, 2, 3, in order to reach to a phase where we can have different committees really taking care of different elements. Because right now, if we try to do everything, you will get, very overwhelmed. And being mindful of, all of your time really valuable. I mean, that's why whenever we plan it in such a way that, we try not to have your physical presence or too much time from you. Rather, we do, bank on more of virtual or more of, social media outreach and so on. So I think let's take this work plan, expand it as something that is understandable by everyone, so that everyone really understand what we are talking about, SMEs, MSMEs, what is the plan. Because some of you, maybe you have more interaction with someone and you understand a little more, and some are a little less. So in that case, I think let's put it on paper, all the things, irrespective of when and how we are going to do it, but let the ideas be captured, let this work plan be expanded so everybody, understands where we are going. And none of these elements which we are discussing is not sort of, falls out of the list. But in order not to overwhelm you, I think we have to take like some small steps, like as Dr. Tariq said, the outreach, communication, website, and, at least making Arise UAE known, those parts has to be first worked out. And then of course the IDDR events, which is again, it will not be something that will overwhelm you. We'll also create the name of or the branding of UAE Arise. That's also very important, because you need to create that credibility when you go to the next stage of dealing with regulators, governments, or with the financial regulators. At that point, you have to have that level of credibility when you go to that stage. So we have to create that, and this is where I think the outreach, the network will be really important. So as a next step, I think let's expand this work plan and put some text that is understandable by everyone, so that it again goes back to the board. Everyone sort of understands this. Just one more, while I was listening to some of you, I would also suggest that, I mean, if not immediately, but this whole dimension of startups, which I think Helen and Zeina actually, talked about, is something that is perhaps is also very critical in the whole business resilience process. Startups are sort of, in a very, they're not established big corporates. So they, in terms of their understanding, their, I think, needs are much more than perhaps others. This is just to keep in our sort of, agenda, so that whenever, we have opportunity next time, we should actually talk about it, what can be done. And if Helen and Ms. Zeina, you have some ideas, you can share with the board, and that could be a sort of a starting point from there. In terms of timeline on the work plan, I think this is again, flexible depending on how you are placed, but something we agreed already is the 9th November will be the launch of the formal launch of the UAE Arise, and we want to take the opportunity of presence of all the governments in the region, in the Arab region. So our office deals with all the 22 countries in the Arab states. So around, I think, 17 to 18 governments usually participate in that meeting. And we will have the UN from all over the region, the number of stakeholders, scientific institutions, and so on in that meeting. So it's a good platform to launch. I mean, we are already sort of launched. The UAE Arise is launched for you, at least for the board. But let's make that more known. And by that time, if we have the website in proper shape, have the CEO, symposium already there, we can already show the effectiveness of the network. That would be, something good. I think IDDR, Rania already mentioned, the SMEs program can be immediately sort of launched. Maybe, Ahmed need to provide a little more description and the intended timeline for that. And those elements which are for 2021, maybe we need to take another opportunity to discuss that. The resilient infrastructure, I think we should immediately start working on it. That's also an element of the Global Arise. And I think, all other elements which we discussed, let's start working on it as we concretize the plan into something that is, can be executed, can be applied, and then move forward. If that's, I think, something agreeable with everyone, maybe we can move with that.
Definitely, and just for the sake of time, I think, thank you so much, Sajid, and everyone. Is there any final words?
Just two points I wanted to make very quickly. In terms of initiatives, Sujit, what I suggest is that if we are able to identify the action points and let the board members take the lead on them, and according to their comfort and time and expertise, they can contribute to that. And as far as the outreach is concerned, I mean, my infrastructure, just for your information, there was a heavy backing team who was sitting here with me. They would always be present. And my outreach goes, Rania, especially for your information, it is 150 million is my current outreach through my internal social media command center. So they are action and instructed to roll out all the initiatives of UNDRR, whatever we are planning. So it reaches out through 150 million outreach every time we do any initiative under UNDRR through my infrastructure, internal infrastructure. Okay.
And Mr. Sajid, just on the startup scene and the ecosystem, I'm happy to reach out to the startup ecosystem here and make our initiatives aware and also get their feedback on business resilience. Thank you.
Great. I mean, I like the optimism and positivity and energy. So let's keep this level higher and higher, and let's start action.
I have a question as well to Rania, if you don't mind. For the recording that is happening for the 13th of October, because there's a lot of
We can't hear you.
Sorry, Zeina, we can't hear you.
Sorry, is that better? Yeah.
Yes.
So a question to Rania. For the recording that is happening on the 13th of October, there is a line of influencers I'm very happy to put in touch with you. When would be the recording happening? And you'll be able to share a brief with us within those 2 days?
Yeah, definitely. I can share the brief by tomorrow maximum, because it's going to be bilingual, Arabic, English, and depending on the influencer preferable language. As for the recording, they will be recording, but nevertheless we will do some editing from our side. So if they can share the videos, nevertheless, if any of the influencer would like to meet and have a one-to-one discussion, because sometimes they might find challenges, or over the phone, we can do that and just go over how it can be said, what are the main messages. Maybe sometimes explanation is needed because they're not in the field. They want a bit of background. They want to connect being an individual to the whole concept and theme. So that I can do with them over the phone or meet if needed, but the messages itself will be sent directly to you.
Great, thank you for the clarity.
In fact, Dr. Mahmoud, and he will share to everyone as I believe. Perfect. And for the influencer, yes, just give me a call and we can arrange.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Sounds great.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for the meeting. And I'll communicate with you soon the next time of the meeting. So for now, let's work on the actions we agreed upon today and take this to the next level.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mahmoud. And just to let you know that me and my team will always be with you to work with you on anything needed. So, you know, it's really amazing to work with all of you. I mean, it's a great team, I must say.
No, I think it was a very good meeting, and I think I see that everybody is very energetic, you know, that's good to know, you know, so we have a long way to go, but it's a good start, you know. Thank you very much, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.